Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session from Trium on the regulatory recommendation summary for clinical trials. We are about 1 minute to the top of the hour, so I will give people 1 more minute to have the ability to join this session, but I definitely will start at 3 p.m. Central European Time, sharp as promised. So talk to you in 1 minute. Thank you. Okay, I'm back again. So this is Esther speaking. It's now 3 p.m. Central European Time on the dot. So I will start this 15-minute overview of the regulatory recommendations summary for clinical trials. Should anybody not hear me, let me know through the chat, or if any other issue, do let me know. If not, I will continue talking. Okay, so let's continue with the regulatory recommendations for all regarded to the COVID-19 pandemic, which we're all currently in. First of all, I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you're taking care of yourselves and your loved ones out there. Okay, so let's continue. First of all, again, welcome everybody. What will you be able to do after this 15-minute session? First of all, you should be able to list all the official recommendations that were shared by the European, American, and Japanese regulatory bodies. You should be able to describe all key considerations and takeaways to ensure patient safety, data quality, and overall compliance. And based on all of that information, you should be able to start adjusting your strategies and related actions accordingly related to the strategies for your clinical trials. If you haven't done so already, because I'm sure you did, but if not, you can use this definitely as a good starting point. So what are the regulatory recommendations? Well, I've listed them all here. They are named exactly the same way as they are named on the documents itself that we have received. So this is a good resource for you to know. All of these documents can be found on the Trium website, freely available for you to go and download if should you need them. The link is listed here below. Okay, so what are the regulatory bodies actually all saying? Well, we all have encountered, I'm sure you as well as we all here at Trium, all of the challenges related to this pandemic, travel restrictions, quarantines of the volunteers or subjects, monitors, site staff, sites closure, site staff not being available for trial conduct, or infected site staff, or changes in site staff. All of these things are happening as we speak. Supply chain of investigator drug or device disruption can also occur. Yeah, so we'd like to emphasize that these guidances from the Europe are both from the European Medicines Agency as from the European Commission. So this also is applicable to all device trials, not just only for the drug or bio trials. Okay, so all of these challenges, yeah, they all encounter risks. First of all, risks for protocol deviations and safety issues. Yeah, we have all risks related to the investigated drug or device delivery or use out of window visits, delays or cancellations of required lab or diagnostic testings, delays in CRF completion, safety reporting, cancellation or delays in monitoring to confirm eligibility, informed consent for process, and so on. So there are a lot of risks to be assessed. Next to that, there are also risks for clinical trial measures in general. So which kind of measures you might be obliged as a sponsor to take, or as an investigator to advise your sponsors to take is maybe a temporary halt of a trial, or suspension or slowing down of subject recruitment, or extension of the trial duration, which have an impact on your budget and going to market, site closure even, or needing for opening new sites, depending if you have some urgent safety measures to take into account. These, of course, would be exceptional situations, but they are also considered as substantial amendments, should that be the case. So the regulatory bodies do recommend strongly against opening new sites. They only allow it when it's needed for safety issues, when patients are not being able to get their investigator product or device that is really needed for them. Otherwise, it's not allowed. Yeah, you could also have to postpone any site activity, or the setup or the start of new clinical trials. So a lot of risks involved with this situation. Now, what is the key message from all regulatory bodies? It's patient safety. And I don't know if you're aware, but it was actually Patient Safety Awareness Week, the week of 8 to 14 of March 2020. So it's more accurate than ever, more needed than ever. So what are the key messages from all of the global nations? The guidances from all global nations, the regulatory bodies, they all say first and foremost, patient safety, rights, and well-being over any other priority. This is the main priority. This is key. GCP and local regulatory compliance, and minimizing risk to ensure trial integrity issues. So those are the three key messages, with first and foremost patient safety, rights, and well-being. Okay, so what does that mean? What are the regulatory bodies saying? Well, first of all, you have to do altered policies or procedures related to the current situation. So that need is there, like maybe, as we already said, you have to delay an assessment or a recruitment stop, or you have to withdraw a subject because the protocol cannot be complied to. In any case, all alternations need to be in compliance with the local or regional COVID-19 policies. So you cannot do anything that goes against the restrictions that have been laid by your regulatory bodies. All actions also should be proportionate and based on the benefit risk considerations and on contingency provisions where subject health and safety are the priority. So you can see I've put in italic the word risk many times. Well, risk assessment is now key. You have to do your risk assessment for your specific trial and your specific locations, so that you can do the assessment of what are the highest risks for us and where is the benefit versus risk consideration related to subject health and safety. That is the key priority. Also, feasibility of starting a new trial. Well, if you were about to start a new trial or concluding new subjects or sites in an ongoing way, that should also be based on a critical risk assessment. So if it's not really critical, that should actually be delayed or postponed. All the trials that have a priority, so if you want to start a new trial, but it's not related to finding a cure against the coronavirus, then it doesn't have a priority now for the local regulatory bodies, nor for your ethics committees. So the risk assessment need to occur, and it could be that you have to postpone your trial because it's not being considered as a priority by your local regulatories or your ethics committees. Yeah, because we are all trying still to continue doing our work, of course. We are looking for alternative means of contact between subject and site, or monitoring and site. But all of that alternative contacts also need to be assessed in a risk-based way. The virtual phone move of subject to another site, if need be, all considering the limitations and risks and the requirements for data protection. Now, you have to be aware that in Europe, a remote source data verification is not allowed in most European member states. So national competent authorities are looking into solutions as we speak. and they will come back with follow-up guidances, but for now you have to be aware that that is not allowed. Also, ethics committee approvals and data protection agreement needs to be in place before you can consider any alternative means of contact. So this remote SDV that is not allowed, it's more about not the remote SDV that you're already doing right now, or remote monitoring, sorry, that you're already doing right now, but this remote source data verification is applicable to where you ask sites to copy medical files and scan them and send them to you, or where you get access to the electronic system of the medical files directly for the hospital. So that's where this is applicable to. Now, for any alternative means assessed, you have to consider site and subject burden. No additional burden to the site nor subject is allowed. Also, with regards to alternative means of getting the product to the subject, they also should be assessed when patients don't get their investigative product anymore. Again, also considered the risk related to the product, the need for qualified staff if need be to administer the drug, shipping, storage requirements. So all of that needs to be considered if that's actually applicable and allowed, and only for urgent safety reasons. Exceptions could be allowed, but not as a rule. Sponsor sending the IP directly to the subject, it's not common, and it's even not allowed in most countries. And if you have a blinded trial, the blinding should always stay respective. If you can't guarantee that, then this alternative way of working is also not allowed. Need for tests, the contests lab imaging for subject safety. You can use alternative labs if the one assigned for the trial is no longer accessible, but they need to be certified. And those data can definitely be used for safety decisions, also for endpoint information. But in the latter case, it all needs to be very clearly documented in the case report form. So what are the key takeaways? Risk assessment needs to be conducted immediately by the sponsor and the principal investigator for each ongoing trial and for each subject as well, not just for the trial, for each subject. Immediately liaising with an ethics committee. Avoid site and subject burden as much as possible, ensure balanced decision making. Prospective protocol waivers are in no case allowed by the regulatory bodies. No data protection breaches are in no case allowed. All protocol deviations need to be reported, keep it high level. Now, there are local regulatory differences on how lean they are, but in any case, they need to be reported. Report permanent changes to the PI to the competent authorities and the ethics committees should the PI permanent change be needed in this situation. Of course, when you still ongoing enroll patients, they need to be eligible. But you need to limit new subjects to avoid burden. Alternative ways of working are always within the boundaries of mandatory local restrictions and social distancing, so you cannot deviate from that. And everything needs to be documented, your risk assessment, actions, activations, and deviations, and everything needs to be reported. Yeah, what about the informed consent form? In any case, subjects need to stay informed of any trial changes that could impact them. Now, if you already have a validated and secure electronic system already used now today for informed consent, of course you can continue using that. But if not, reconsenting needs to occur as per GCP. Alternations are only for existing subjects and only due to urgent needed changes related to the COVID virus pandemic or for COVID trials itself. If that's not the case, normal consent is required, and for these exceptions, phone calls or video calls, oral consents with email confirmation afterwards, only again for existing subjects due to the urgent needed changes, or for subjects that are going into a COVID trial, those are allowed, but still afterwards normal consent is also required. No prior ethical committee and competent authority approval and prior informed consent form is needed when avoiding or handling, of course, immediate hazards or to protect subject safety or well-being. Otherwise, it is always needed prior, unless in these circumstances. But if in these circumstances, with regards to immediate hazard, then you still need to report it afterwards. And you have to ensure your justification as to why you did not ask prior approval in writing. No urgent actions reported as substantial amendments. So urgent actions are not considered as substantial amendments, but the others are. And everything needs to be reported as per your SPs, and you should avoid over-reporting. Keep it high level and to the point. IP accountability documentation is still required. Again, COVID trial priorities over all other trials for ethical committee approval and regulatory body approval. When you do alternations, both sponsor and investigator need to agree. And that agreement can be on email exchange, that is sufficient. If any additional cost for the subject, the sponsor need to pay for those during the pandemic. All alternations, what is happening with the data documented in the ECRF, why information is altered or missing. And study reports need to include all information on contingency measures and their impact, and a listing of participants affected afterwards as well. So in practice, what does that mean now? You should liaise immediately as a sponsor with your ethics committee and your PI. You should conduct an impact risk assessment as soon as possible and review this ongoingly. Avoid, defer, or mitigate your highest risks, always in line with the COVID restrictions and local regulatory guidance. So you have to also liaise with your local competent authorities as applicable. And there you have the FDA review divisions, and you have the EU, where you can go for certain questions, where you have here a few examples. Everything needs to be documented in your trial master files. All of the alternative actions need to be reported to your ethics committee and and regulatory bodies. And you also now need to start planning for robust follow-up when the situation normalizes. So when you had delays in your monitoring, already plan now for future monitoring visits when you anticipate this to be over. Okay, so those were the key takeaways I wanted to share with you today. Should you have any issues or questions related to how on earth do I start with this risk assessment, or I have started a risk assessment, but I don't know if I'm going the right way. Well, we at Trium here at working diligently on actually a template risk assessment log with pre-filled risks related to this pandemic and aligned with the regulatory requirements. We will be offering an additional live online workshop on this next Tuesday, the 31st of March, between 3 and 4:30 p.m. Central European Time. It's at a reduced rate, which includes the whole template. So it's a great starting point or a good benchmark to see if you have captured all your highest risks and have captured all of the requirements as per the regulatory bodies. Okay, so that's all I wanted to share with you. I hope I met my learning objectives and you have some good takeaways to go and do further risk assessment for your trials. And I thank you very much, and I really take care of yourselves and your loved ones out there, and keep it healthy and keep it safe. Okay, thank you very much, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, bye. My pleasure, folks. Good luck out there, and thank you. Bye.